Using magic mushrooms, or psilocybin, is one of the most powerful consciousness-shifting experiences out there. But people's experiences with them vary wildly. So let's break down the 3 most common types of mushroom trips people have: doing shrooms, bad trips, and the earth-shattering mystical experience. I'm Eric. I'm a professional psilocybin mushroom facilitator, and I run Evolve Wild, which offers multi-day nature-based journeys around the psilocybin mushroom experience. First, a lot of people have had positive experiences on mushrooms, but nothing life-changing. These types of journeys fall into the category of what we'll call doing shrooms. I'd say this is most people's experience with mushrooms, and it's probably the most common type of mushroom trip for anyone, including people who have had the other 2 varieties. So, psilocybin, the psychoactive ingredient in magic mushrooms, mimics serotonin, but it doesn't flood you with it. It activates certain receptors while it quiets others, and literally changes how your brain communicates with itself. This releases you from the normal way your brain operates, which is your default mode network. So instead of your normal thoughts, habits, stories, and adhering to the script you've been saying to yourself, different parts of your brain start talking to each other in new ways. That feels good as it's fresh, and you gain deeper insights into things that you were stuck on. Overall, people generally feel light, open, even a little weird in a fun way. The likely outcomes, particularly with small to medium doses, is that you'll feel happier. Maybe things go a little wonky. Things are funnier, music hits better, and nature looks magical. Possibly you'll get some visuals, and you can have a quality epiphany or 2. So this can apply anywhere from a microdose up to a few grams. I don't love getting into exact dosing when it comes to how mushrooms affects people. I'll cover dosing more in another video, but so much has to do with your set or your mindset and setting or your environment. The fact that mushroom weight doesn't translate reliably to psilocybin contents, plus the fact they rapidly lose potency after a year. Then there's tolerance, intention, company versus doing it solo, and more comes into the picture. You can take a few grams and still feel mostly awkward. With mushrooms, again, set and setting matters just as much, if not more, than the dose. You want your intentions to align with the space you move through and your dosing before you step into it. And a lot of people know this, so people either wait for the perfect moment while their mushrooms are aging in the closet, losing potency, or they dive in randomly, maybe at a party, while drinking, or at a show. That's recreational use. I know a lot of people hold a lot more intention around their journey than that, but without knowing how to do it or how involved the journey can be, it's difficult to create the right environment for it. So they just do shrooms with some other people they know. Well, some facilitators take a pretty strong stance against anything other than ceremonial use of mushrooms. I actually think it speaks to how versatile mushrooms are. Microdosing and rec use has its merits. Part of life, and mushrooms, is just about enjoying it for what it is. It doesn't have to be so heavy and deep all the time. But the hidden risk of doing this often is that mushrooms could become just another thing that people consume to feel better in the world and in their life as it is. Mushrooms absolutely have the power to change people's entire stories. And if done on a larger scale, I believe they have the potential to change the culture rather than just be another part of it. Also, while we're on this, alcohol tends to blunt or muddy the mushroom experience. You're kind of stepping on both the gas and the brake at the same time when you do that. But the general feeling from recreational or random use can range from everything is amazing to this feels really weird to my stomach isn't feeling well, which happens when you eat greasy foods and then gulp down some barely chewed whole dried mushrooms. You become more self-aware on them, so an upset stomach can overshadow a whole trip, which is very common with inexperienced users. It's an easy fix. You grind them up, put them in some tea, drink it all down, pulp and all, and note that psilocybin breaks down at high temperatures, so don't make the tea too hot. Anyway, after just about any of these types of experiences, a lot of people stop here and think to themselves, I guess mushrooms aren't for me, or I did that, and now I'm kind of over it. This seems to be the majority of people's mushroom trips. And those people tend to think they're fun, but they don't really consider them that meaningful. I've had all these types of journeys, and trust me, there's a lot more to the story, especially now that their legal use, resulting research, and professional facilitation are stepping into the light. But there's something else that can turn people off to mushrooms entirely, often for life: the bad trip. There are real bad trips that people have. And then there are the media style bad trips meant to scare the crap out of you. People aren't out here actually thinking they can fly and trying to jump off of buildings. That's just reefer madness level silliness. Bad trips are very real, and they can be traumatic for people who experience them, though. Having that type of experience just once can stop a person who could desperately use this kind of journey, particularly people who have a lot of anxiety, feel depressed, or struggling with trauma, addiction, grief and loss of meaning, burnout, held in an intentional way, from ever turning towards it again. This may be the biggest issue with unguided journeys. Any good facilitator will do the work beforehand to frame some of the difficulties that may arise as part of the journey and help people work through those challenges. Even before that, the first step we do is a screening to make sure people are safe to even do a journey. You can fill out a free journey readiness form linked below to see if this is something you should even be considering doing. Next, we go through a more detailed preparation session where we talk about the journey and learn more about your orientation to it all and what may arise. During the mushroom experience, here's a bit of what's happening behind the curtains. Psilocybin quiets your inner narrator, your normal patterns, your sense of self, your "this is how I handle life" system. When that shuts down, your sense of perceived control falls away. Your identity starts to feel shaky, and you become way more open, sensitive, and aware. This is actually what we're going for until it all goes south. Imagine if something feels threatening, real or imagined, at that point. You don't feel like you can handle it. You can't fall back on your usual responses and coping patterns. And now your brain is amplifying everything. This all begins to loop on itself. Plus, time gets weird. So 5 minutes can feel like an hour. And that can spiral and send people into a terrible space. You will come out of it, which goes if you have an amazing experience or a rough one. And you'll carry the energy of the journey with you. But just because you get to a difficult place doesn't mean that's where you'll end up. As facilitators, we put a lot of effort into making a safe space, both externally and within people, where this won't happen, or at least hopefully things won't get too out of control. One of the biggest indicators that you'll have a quality journey is the rapport you have with your facilitator. Ask yourself, do I like and trust this person? Would I respect them enough to hear them if things start to go wrong? Part of the journey is actually to face some of the things that you're struggling with. We help you step into that and let the mushrooms show you what needs to come forward rather than try to avoid it and have that define your trip. This is also why people who work in this space talk so much about the container. A good container helps to create safety, trust, intention, and the ability to let go. Meanwhile, a poor or broken container can cause unpredictability, tension, or worse, sharing space with people you shouldn't trust while you're vulnerable. You are in a very vulnerable state. Go with someone reputable, someone you trust, someone you actually feel comfortable going on this type of journey with. There's a whole list of licensed facilitators in Oregon, and you can talk to several until you find someone who you feel comfortable with. We'd rather you pick someone who's a good fit for your journey for the sake of this work, even if it's not the person you talk to. Okay. Now you may be wondering why anyone would even put themselves in this kind of state to begin with. The answer is because of the mushroom's ability to open the door to something absolutely magical, the mystical experience. This is what both research and people who love mushrooms rave about. During a mystical experience, again, your default mode network quiets down enough for your sense of self to loosen or even dissolve. And what takes its place is the sense of feeling a connection with everything. The oneness of life, a profound sense of meaning, and the feeling that your whole life has gone exactly as it's supposed to, and all led you up to that very moment, which feels absolutely perfect. This is also where people can find clarity about their purpose, reframe their entire life story, recognize patterns, wounds, and gifts, and feel deeply pulled towards nature to help ground that larger sense of connection. Your brain, which normally runs along fairly rigid patterns, becomes increasingly connected, like everything is talking to everything. You feel an overwhelming, childlike sense of wonder, love, and awe. I sometimes say to the right crowd, it's an orgasm of your consciousness. People consistently rank these experiences among the top 5 most meaningful moments of their lives. They often even rank it as the most significant, particularly when it comes to spiritual moments they've had. Hopefully it's clear why this leads to such positive outcomes in helping people with anxiety and depression. It also allows people to revisit their trauma or issues they're stuck on and shift their entire relationship with it. And research is overwhelmingly backing all this up. This experience is often what people are trying to describe when they say mushrooms change their life. The sheer bliss and healing powers of it are very tough to put into words. Most people don't even know this state of mind exists, not to mention all the wonderful feelings and lasting benefits of it. This is especially true if people have only had one of the other 2 types of journeys. I will say most people do realize that there's something beyond their own consciousness that mushrooms speak to. It's why they naturally pique people's interest. They point to a state of consciousness that people may or may not have experienced, but know there's something special about. With that, here's where things start to go off the rails coming into a mushroom journey. People think this experience is synonymous with taking a high dose. Hopefully by now you can recognize the size of the dose matters, but it's really how you set things up that get you there or not. People have had mystical experiences on lower doses by having clear intentions, solid preparation, often combined with extensive self-work, lots of time in nature beforehand, the right environment, and a willingness or even desire to allow themselves to go fully inward. You can also take a huge dose and never get there if things are off, particularly if the environment, company, or intentions are misaligned. So much of the work we do, from the facilitation process in Oregon, and especially our multi-day nature-based journeys around it at Evolve Wild, help to decrease the chances of a bad trip and increase the chances of you having a mystical experience. And we're pretty good at both those things. Zooming out, the model of development that I use, these kinds of experiences are gateway moments that shift the perceptual foundation of people's conscious awareness and opens them up to a different life path, more deeply connected to their true self, and move towards deeper psychological development and true maturity. That only happens when they continue to draw on what they find in the journey, but without this experience, they don't even know that exists. Regardless if anyone who's ever had a mystical experience has even heard of Bill Plotkin or the ecocentric developmental wheel or not, which is the model that I use and I like so much, they will likely tell you it was a pinnacle moment in their lives and they were forever changed. This leads me to another thing people don't realize coming in. This experience is just the beginning. What you do with it going forward is just as important. Immediately following a mushroom journey, your brain is in a more neuroplastic state, which is more open and flexible. And areas of the brain are creating new pathways of connection and communication. You can build new patterns or you can fall right back into old ones. If you go straight back into the same environment, same habits, same stuff, you forego a lot of what you opened up to. If you don't understand or unpack what you went through with someone who knows the path, or better yet, spend several days in nature with an amazing group of people, allowing your brain to rewire itself in the healthiest environment possible, your journey will immediately start to take a backseat to your previous way of functioning. Integration is where the real work happens. Last thing worth noting here, you don't get to have that mystical experience every time. If you keep chasing it without integrating what you've already been shown, you might just keep getting the same lesson. You'll be lucky to have one of those experiences in your life. Blessed with the few, and you'll be disconnected if you seek that as the only realm that really matters to you. All of this is exactly why we do what we do, creating intentional journeys with preparation and several days of integration, especially in nature, and a community to fall back on. When everything lines up, it's far more than just a cool experience. It's absolutely life-affirming. I hope this helps you in however you go through your next journey. If you want to know if you're ready for and whether you should engage in a mushroom journey, fill out the journey readiness form below. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more content about ecopsychology, mushrooms, nature-based journeys, and more. See you around.